A mistake at gate 47, Jenna Reed pressed her fingers against her tired eyes as she practically ran through Newark Airport. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, and every muscle in her body ached from the double shift she had just finished at St. Mary's Hospital. 16 hours of monitoring patients in the ICU, watching vital signs, administering medications, and holding the hand of a scared elderly woman who made it through the night against all odds. The clock on her phone showed 5:15 a.m. Her flight to Miami was boarding at gate 42, and she was at gate 18 after 2 years of nonstop work. Caring for her younger brother Tyler after their parents died in a car accident, she desperately needed this weekend. Just 3 days on a beach with her nursing school friend Rachel, away from heart monitors and medication charts and the constant weight of responsibility, Jenna rounded the corner, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. The signs blurred together in her exhausted state. Gate 41. She squinted at the next sign. Gate 47. Wait, that was not right. She pulled out her phone, trying to focus on the boarding pass through the fog of fatigue. A woman in a crisp navy uniform smiled at her. "Miss Patterson, we have been waiting for you." "I'm not," Jenna started to say. But another staff member gently took her elbow. "Mr. Montgomery was worried you might miss the flight," the man said warmly. "Let's get you boarded quickly." Before Jenna could form a coherent protest, she found herself being guided down a jetway. This was wrong. She knew it was wrong. But her brain felt like it was wrapped in cotton, and the words would not come fast enough. Maybe this was some kind of upgrade? Maybe Rachel had done something nice. Then she stepped into the plane, and her breath caught. This was not a commercial aircraft. Cream leather seats, each one wider than her entire living room couch. Polished wood panels, gleaming in soft lighting. A full bar with bottles that probably cost more than her monthly rent. And sitting by the window, turned away from her, was a man in a suit that looked like it had been sewn directly onto his body. The door closed behind her with a heavy thunk. That sound jolted Jenna, fully awake. The reality of her mistake crashed over her like ice water. The man turned around. And Jenna's medical training kicked in automatically. Male, early 30s, physically fit, dark hair slightly disheveled, in a way that looked intentional. His eyes were a striking blue-gray, and when they landed on her, they widened in obvious surprise. "You are not Vanessa," he said. It was not a question, no, Jenna replied, clutching her phone. "I'm Jenna Reed, and I think I got on the wrong plane." The corner of his mouth twitched. "That seems likely." The engines began their pre-flight whir. Panic rose in Jenna's chest. "I need to get off." "I'm supposed to be on a flight to Miami. My friend is waiting. I'm afraid we have already received clearance for takeoff," the man said, his expression shifting to something that looked almost like amusement. "My staff apparently mistook you for my companion for this trip. Where is this plane going?" Jenna demanded, sinking into the seat across from him because her legs suddenly felt too weak to hold her. "Paris," he said simply. "Paris. As in Paris. France." He nodded. "This cannot be happening." Jenna ran her hands through her hair. "I do not even have my passport." "Wait, yes I do." She remembered throwing it in her backpack months ago after renewing it, thinking maybe someday she would travel again. "But that's not the point. I cannot go to Paris. I have a shift on Monday. I have to take care of my brother." "I'm Blake Montgomery, by the way," the man said, extending his hand. Jenna shook it automatically, her nurse instincts making her polite even in crisis. His grip was firm and warm. "This is insane." "Thoroughly," Blake agreed, settling back in his seat as the plane began to taxi. "My assistant booked this trip with Vanessa Patterson, a model I occasionally spend time with. She apparently canceled at the last minute, and my staff assumed you were her." "Do I look like a model?" Jenna asked incredulously. Gesturing to her faded jeans and plain sweater, Blake's eyes traveled over her with an intensity that made her skin warm. "You look exhausted, if I am being honest." "When was the last time you slept?" "About 30 hours ago," Jenna admitted. "I work in the ICU. We had an emergency case that turned into 2, and then my regular shift started." "So you rushed from a double shift directly to the airport?" It was supposed to be my first vacation in 2 years, Jenna said, hearing the defeat in her own voice. And instead, I am being kidnapped to France. Technically, this is not kidnapping if you walked onto my plane voluntarily, Blake pointed out, but his tone was gentle. Though I understand that's not particularly comforting. The plane lifted off smoothly, and Jenna felt tears prick her eyes. This could not be real. Things like this did not happen to people like her. People who worked 60-hour weeks and counted every dollar and worried constantly about making ends meet. Hey, Blake said softly. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you, the moment we land in Paris, I will arrange for you to fly home. First class, any airline you want. This is not your fault. Kinda is my fault, Jenna said, wiping her eyes. I was so tired I did not even check the gate number properly.
Sleep deprivation is serious,
Blake said, his tone shifting to something more concerned. As someone who has pushed through plenty of all-nighters building my company, I know how it messes with your judgment. Jenna looked at him more carefully. What do you do? I run a tech company. Software security, mostly. He did not elaborate, and Jenna was too tired to press. A flight attendant appeared with food that smelled incredible. Despite everything, Jenna realized she was starving. She had not eaten since yesterday afternoon. Please eat, Blake encouraged. We have about 7 hours until we land. You should rest. I do not understand why you were being so nice, Jenna said, taking a croissant that flaked perfectly under her fingers. I crashed your romantic trip. Blake's expression darkened slightly. It was not particularly romantic, more of a social obligation. Honestly, you might have done me a favor. As they ate, conversation began to flow more naturally. Blake asked about her work, and Jenna found herself describing the intensity of the ICU, the patients who stayed with her even after their shifts ended, the satisfaction of watching someone recover against odds. Why nursing? Blake asked, genuinely curious. My grandmother, Jenna said. She got sick when I was in high school. Cancer. The nurses who cared for her were amazing. They made something terrifying feel manageable. I wanted to be that person for someone else. That's beautiful, Blake said quietly. What about you? Jenna asked. Why software security? Blake was quiet for a moment. My best friend from college and I started the company together. He was paranoid about online privacy, always talking about how vulnerable people were. We decided to do something about it. The way he said was made Jenna's medical intuition kick in. Was? She asked gently. He died a year ago. Climbing accident in Colorado? Blake's voice was carefully controlled, but Jenna heard the pain underneath. I am so sorry, Jenna said, and meant it. She knew grief. She lived with it every day since her parents died.
Your parents?
Blake said, somehow reading her expression. That is why you are raising your brother. Tyler, he is 19 now, starting college in the fall. Princeton, on a partial scholarship. Pride filled her voice. He is brilliant. And you are working double shifts to help with tuition, Blake guessed. Jenna nodded. The life insurance helped, but it's not enough. Medical school is expensive. They talked for hours, the conversation ranging from deep to trivial and back again. Blake was surprisingly easy to talk to once the initial shock wore off. He did not treat her differently because of their obvious wealth gap. If anything, he seemed interested in her normal life, asking questions about her neighborhood, her colleagues, Tyler's college plans. Finally, exhaustion caught up with Jenna. Her eyelids grew heavy. Sleep, Blake said, handing her a blanket that was softer than anything she had ever touched. I promise, I will be a perfect gentleman. I do not usually fall asleep on strange men's private jets, Jenna mumbled. Already drifting? I should hope not, Blake replied with a smile she could hear in his voice. That would be a concerning habit. Jenna slept deeply, dreamlessly, for the first time in months. When she woke, Paris waited below them, glittering in the morning sun like a promise she had never dared to make. Morning, in a different world, Jenna woke to gentle turbulence and the scent of fresh coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw Blake sitting across from her, reading something on his tablet, and everything came rushing back. Good morning, he said, looking up with a smile. We land in 30 minutes. Jenna sat up, suddenly aware that she had drooled slightly on the expensive leather. I cannot believe I actually slept. You needed it, Blake said, pouring her a cup of coffee. You were exhausted. Looking out the window, Jenna saw the city spreading below them. The Eiffel Tower rose in the distance, and her breath caught despite everything. It is beautiful.
It is,
Blake agreed. Listen, I know I said I would put you on the first flight home, but I was thinking you have until Monday evening for your shift, right? Jenna nodded cautiously. What if you stayed? Just for today. Let me show you Paris as an apology for this mix-up. Then tomorrow, I will make sure you get home with plenty of time. Every practical part of Jenna's brain screamed no. But something else, something that had been buried under responsibility and grief for 2 years, whispered yes. I should call my brother, she said. Of course. Why answered on the second ring? Jenna, Rachel has been calling everyone. Where are you? This is going to sound crazy, Jenna began, and explained the entire situation. When she finished, there was silence. You are in Paris, Tyler finally said, almost with a billionaire. He's not a billionaire. He just has a tech company. Jenna, I looked him up while you were talking. Blake Montgomery. His company is worth about $6 billion. He is on Forbes lists. Jenna's stomach dropped. She looked at Blake, who was politely pretending not to listen. Tyler, I have to go. Are you okay with Aunt Carol for another day? I am 19, not 9, Tyler said. Stay in Paris. You deserve this. Send pictures. After she hung up, Jenna turned to Blake. My brother says you are worth $6 billion. The company is worth that. It is not the same thing. Let me think you were just a regular businessman. Would you have talked to me the same way if you knew? Blake asked quietly. Jenna considered this. Probably not. She would have been guarded, awkward, assuming he was slumming or playing some game. Fair point. One day in Paris, Blake said, let me show you the real city, not the tourist version. Then you can decide if you want to go home. Against her better judgment, Jenna found herself nodding. Hidden Paris, the hotel, was predictably luxurious. Blake arranged a suite for her, and Jenna showered in a bathroom that had heated floors and a tub the size of a small pool. Clothing appeared, somehow exactly her size. Casual, but clearly expensive. She met Blake in the lobby. Feeling like an imposter in designer jeans and a silk blouse? Perfect, he said when he saw her. And something in his eyes made her blush. Instead of heading to the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre, Blake took her to a small cafe in the Marais district. The owner greeted him like family, kissing both cheeks and exclaiming in rapid French, You come here often? Jenna asked as they sat at a tiny table on the sidewalk. I lived in Paris for 2 years after college, Blake explained. Before the company took off, my best friend David and I spent a semester abroad here and fell in love with the city. We came back after graduation, tried to start a business, failed spectacularly, then went back to the States and actually succeeded. David is the friend who passed away? Jenna asked gently. Blake nodded, his jaw tightening. He wanted to retire here eventually. Buy an apartment overlooking the Seine, learn to paint, become one of those Americans who goes full Parisian. What happened? Climbing accident, like I said, but it was my fault. Blake stared at his coffee. We had this tradition. Every year, we would take a week off and go hiking somewhere remote. It was our way of unplugging from the company. Last year, I canceled at the last minute. Big investor meeting I thought I could not miss. David went alone. He fell. By the time anyone found him, it was too late. Jenna reached across the table and took his hand. That was not your fault. Everyone says that, Blake said, but he did not pull his hand away. Knowing it logically does not change how it feels. I understand, Jenna said quietly. When my parents died, I was supposed to go home that weekend, but I picked up an extra shift instead. I needed the money for student loans. If I had been home, maybe I would have gone with them to the store. Maybe I would have driven instead of my dad. Maybe they would still be alive. Blake's fingers tightened around hers. And maybe you would have died too. Exactly what my therapist says, Jenna admitted. But the guilt does not listen to logic. while they sat in comfortable silence. Two people who understood loss in a way others could not. Afternoon. Wanderings Blake showed her Paris through the eyes of someone who loved it. Not the grand monuments, but the hidden courtyards. The bookshops tucked down alleyways, the gardens where locals brought their children to play. In one small park, they watched an elderly man feed pigeons while a violinist played nearby. Jenna felt something loosen in her chest, a tension she had been carrying so long she forgot it was there. "Thank you for this," she said. "Thank you for being here," Blake replied. "I have not enjoyed Paris like this in years. Everything became about business meetings and networking events. I forgot why I loved it." They bought bread and cheese from a market and had an impromptu picnic by the river. As the afternoon sun turned golden, Blake told her about building his company. The early struggles, the moment when everything clicked. "David always kept me grounded," he said. "After he died, I threw myself into work. Traveled constantly. Dated people I did not care about. Anything to not feel the loss." "Is that why you were bringing Vanessa to Paris?" Jenna asked. Blake had the grace to look embarrassed. "Partially. She is nice enough, but we both knew it was not serious. Just two people filling time." "It sounds lonely," Jenna observed. It was Blake admitted. "It is." As evening approached, Blake took her to a small restaurant in Montmartre. No menu, just whatever the chef decided to make that day. The owner, an elderly woman named Camille, fussed over them like they were her own children, over wine and the most incredible meal Jenna had ever tasted. Their conversation deepened. Blake asked about her dreams, the ones she had put on hold when her parents died. "I wanted to travel," Jenna confessed. "I had a job offer in Seattle at a research hospital. Better pay, interesting cases, a chance to be part of something cutting edge. But Tyler needed stability. I could not uproot him after everything he had lost." "Do you resent him for it?" Blake asked. Jenna considered the question honestly. "Sometimes. Not him exactly. Just the situation. I love my brother. But I am 27, and sometimes I feel 40. I have not been on a date in 2 years. I do not remember the last time I did something just for fun." "Till today," Blake said softly. "Till today," Jenna agreed. Meeting his eyes, the air between them shifted. Became charged with something neither of them could name yet. Evening promises after dinner. They walked through the lamplit streets of Montmartre. Artists still worked at their easels despite the late hour, and musicians played for coins. "I do not want you to leave tomorrow," Blake said suddenly. Jenna's heart skipped. "Blake, stay another day. 2 days. You do not work until Monday evening. That gives us time." "Time for what?" Jenna asked, though she knew the answer. "To see if this is real," Blake said, stopping to face her. "What I feel when I am with you. The way you make me want to be present instead of running. I have not felt this in so long, maybe never. I need to know if it is just the moment or something more." "We live in completely different worlds," Jenna protested weakly. "So what? I can work from anywhere. You could visit on weekends. We find a way." "You make it sound simple." "Maybe it is," Blake said, cupping her face in his hands. "Maybe we are the ones making it complicated." When he kissed her, Paris sparkled around them. The city of lights, of romance, of possibilities Jenna had stopped letting herself imagine. She kissed him back, tasting wine and hope and something terrifyingly real. 2 more days, she whispered when they finally broke apart. Pulling her close, above them the stars wheeled across the Parisian sky, and for the first time in 2 years, Jenna let herself believe in something beyond duty and survival. She let herself believe in magic. Country morning Jenna woke in a bedroom that belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked rolling French countryside, morning mist clinging to the valleys. Blake's country house, just an hour outside Paris, was somehow both grand and cozy. She found Blake in the kitchen, making coffee and talking quietly with Camille, who apparently managed all his properties. The older woman smiled warmly at Jenna, switching smoothly to English. "Monsieur Blake says you stay longer. This is good. He needs company that is real, not those silly models." Blake laughed. Camille does not hold back her opinions. Why should I? Camille shrugged. I knew you when you were a foolish boy with David, sleeping on a broken couch and eating nothing but baguettes. Money does not change who you are inside. After breakfast, Blake showed Jenna the property. Gardens, a small vineyard, a library that made her want to move in permanently. Everything was beautiful, but never ostentatious. She could see Blake's personality in the choices, elegant simplicity over flashy wealth. I bought this place with David, Blake said as they walked through the vineyard. We were going to retire here together, spend our old age arguing about wine and writing bad poetry. It sounds perfect, Jenna said softly. He never got to see it finished, Blake continued. I had the renovations completed after he died. Part of me hoped it would feel like he was here, but it just felt empty. And now? Jenna asked. Blake looked at her, something vulnerable in his expression. Now it feels less empty. The truth surfaces that afternoon, while Blake took a work call. Jenna borrowed a laptop to check on Tyler. Her brother had sent her several links. All articles about Blake Montgomery, billionaire CEO, tech genius, one of the most eligible bachelors in America according to multiple magazines. Photos showed him at charity galas. Technology conferences, always impeccably dressed, often with a beautiful woman on his arm. This was not just a successful businessman. This was someone who existed in a completely different stratosphere. Jenna felt sick. Why had Blake downplayed his wealth so much? What was she doing here, playing house with someone who could buy her entire neighborhood as a casual investment? When Blake found her, she was sitting in the library. Laptop still open to an article titled, Tech Billionaire Blake Montgomery. Where is he now? Ah, Blake said, seeing the screen. You found out? You lied to me, Jenna said, hearing the hurt in her own voice. I never lied, Blake protested. I just did not correct your assumptions. That is the same thing. Jenna stood, wrapping her arms around herself. Do you know how stupid I feel? Talking about my money problems, my student loans, my struggles with hospital bills. Meanwhile, you could write a check for the entire hospital and not notice. That is exactly why I did not tell you, Blake said quietly. The moment people know how much money I have, everything changes. They get careful around me, or they want something, or they assume I am playing some game. Maybe I deserve the chance to make that choice myself, Jenna said. Blake moved closer. You are right. I should have been completely honest. But Jenna, these past 2 days with you have been the most real thing in my life since David died. You look at me and see a person, not a bank account. You call me out when I am being ridiculous. You make me laugh. You make me want to be better. I do not know if I can do this, Jenna whispered. Look at this place. Look at your life. I am a nurse from Newark who shops at discount stores and worries about making rent. We do not make sense. Why not? Blake challenged. Because I have money? That is just circumstance, Jenna. It does not define who I am, any more than your job defines you. It is not that simple. Why not? Blake repeated, frustration creeping into his voice. Give me one good reason why we cannot try. Because when this ends, and it will end, I will be the one destroyed, Jenna said, tears spilling over. You will go back to your life, your galas and models and million-dollar deals. And I will go back to my hospital shifts, but now I will know what I am missing. I will have tasted this life, this feeling, and going back will be unbearable. Blake pulled her into his arms, and she let him. Soaking his shirt with tears she had been holding back. Hey, what if it does not end? He murmured into her hair. What if this is the beginning of something real? Choosing hope, they spent the rest of the day talking, really talking. Blake opened up about his childhood, parents who divorced messily, a boarding school that taught him to be self-sufficient, but never how to connect. Money had always complicated his relationships. Women who wanted his wealth, friends who wanted his connections, even family members who saw him as an ATM. David was the only one who knew me before all of this, Blake said. He remembered when we were just two broke college kids with big dreams. After he died, I had no one who saw me as just Blake. What about now? Jenna asked. Now I have you, Blake said simply. You did not know who I was. You saw me for who I am, not what I have. That is rare. That is precious. Jenna told him about the weight of responsibility, the way she had put her entire life on hold for Tyler, how guilty she felt whenever she wanted something for herself, how lonely it was, being the strong one all the time. You do not have to be strong alone anymore, Blake said. Let me help. Not with money, though if you need that, it is yours. But let me be someone you can lean on. I do not know how, Jenna admitted. We figure it out together, Blake said, taking her hands. Look, I know this is fast. We have known each other for 3 days. But sometimes you just know. I knew with David that we would be best friends 5 minutes after meeting him. I know with you that this is something real. Something worth fighting for? I am scared, Jenna whispered. Blake admitted. But I am more scared of letting you walk away without trying. As the sun set over the vineyard, painting everything gold and rose, Jenna made her choice. She chose to hope. She chose to believe that maybe, just maybe, 2 people from different worlds could build something together. Okay, she said. We try. But slowly. I need to take this slow. Slow as you want, Blake promised, kissing her forehead. New York reality. The flight back to New York came too soon. Blake flew with her, willing to say goodbye in Paris. In the car from the airport to her apartment in Newark, Jenna felt reality closing back in. Her building looked shabbier than she remembered. Peeling paint, broken security door, the smell of fried food and garbage in the stairwell. She saw Blake taking it all in and felt embarrassed. This is me, she said when they reached her door. Tyler practically tackled her when she walked in. You are alive. I was starting to think you got kidnapped for real.
Tyler.
This is Blake. Blake, my brother Tyler. The 2 men shook hands. Tyler clearly trying not to stare at someone he had read about in Forbes. I should let you settle in, Blake said. But I will call you tomorrow. Please, Jenna said, walking him back to the door. In the hallway, Blake kissed her gently. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. After he left, Tyler turned to her with wide eyes. That is Blake Montgomery. You spent 3 days with Blake Montgomery. Spent 3 days with Blake, Jenna corrected. A person I am starting to care about very much. This is insane, Tyler said. In the best possible way, that night, Jenna lay in her own bed, in her own tiny bedroom, and touched the necklace Blake had given her. The Eiffel Tower pendant felt like a promise. Her phone buzzed. A text from Blake. Already missing you. Dinner Thursday? She smiled and typed back. It is a date. 6 months later, Jenna walked into St. Mary's Hospital for her shift, same as always. Except now, there was a difference. Blake had been true to his word. He came to Newark every week, staying in a hotel nearby. Taking her to dinner, meeting her friends. Being part of her real life, she had visited him in Boston twice. Seen his world? And yes, it was overwhelming. But Blake never made her feel less than. He introduced her as his girlfriend with pride, shut down anyone who treated her poorly, and seemed happiest when they were alone. Just talking, Tyler had received a mysterious scholarship that covered his full tuition. Jenna suspected Blake, though he denied it. She decided not to push. Some gifts you just accepted.
Oh, Jenna.
Her colleague Rachel came running up. There is a situation in the lobby. Jenna hurried downstairs, expecting an emergency. Instead, she found Blake standing in the middle of the lobby with an enormous bouquet of flowers. What are you doing here? She asked, laughing. I could not wait until Thursday, Blake said simply. He looked around at the hospital, at her colleagues gathering to watch. Is this okay? Coming to your work? It is perfect, Jenna said. Taking the flowers and kissing him in front of everyone, as they walked to the cafeteria for terrible coffee, Blake took her hand. I have been thinking. Dangerous, Jenna teased. I want to open a foundation, Blake said, for nursing scholarships and hospital staff support. Healthcare workers give so much. They deserve support. I want to name it after David. He always wanted to give back. I thought maybe you could help me run it. Jenna stopped walking. Blake, I do not know anything about running a foundation. But you know what nurses need? What healthcare workers struggle with. I can handle the money part. I need someone who understands the mission. He squeezed her hand. I need you. Looking up at this man who had crashed into her life on a plane 3 days that changed everything, Jenna felt tears of joy. This was real.